And when I found that fascia can not only make you move well, but look well, I was sold. When I did my weight loss from food alone, I was like, holy smokes, I want every woman on the planet to have this, to know what this feels like, to know what it feels like to walk with confidence, to walk with control. When you've got your blood sugar levels so far out of balance, people think their mind is weak. They're not understanding their chemistry is weak because their body is out of balance. And so they keep beating up themselves because their brain is weak, not having discipline around food. When all we need to do is give them a big hug and have them balance their blood sugar levels. And then they've got so much more mental and physical strength to be able to make healthy decisions.
I'm your host, Kim Hines, and welcome to the Emotional Eats podcast. I'm on a mission to show you that what you consume, not just the food, affects your entire life. Midlife is different. Let's dig into the real reasons why you eat when you're not hungry and why you're not feeling well. My guests and I are going to give you doable solutions and help you let go of perfectionism, food rules, and stress to make changes that will last a lifetime. If you're ready to ditch old school diet culture and nourish your entire life, this is the show for you. Welcome to episode 60 of the Emotional Eats podcast. Today, Tamara Renee and I talk about natural aging and health in women over 40. Tamara Renee is a health and wellness expert, and she shares the power of working with fascia. And she talks about what fascia is, where it is in our body, and how important it is to release adhesions and tension in the fascia. Some highlights from our conversation in this episode are Tamara shares her amazing story about her own weight loss journey, nutrition, and lymphatic care. She also talks about the importance of fascia and skin health for not only aesthetics and well-being. And she shares so many things that she does to help her own clients and their well-being. She talks about personalized nutrition and fitness based on DNA analysis, and also the importance of the fascia system in the body, including its role in joint stability, nerve communication, and emotional healing. We, of course, love talking about the aging process and aging naturally. Stay tuned to the end because Tamara has 3 great doable tips to help you with your health and wellness. Reach out to me or Tamara. We are on Instagram. I'm at Kim Hines Health, and Tamara is at FitFineFascia, Fascia, and we'd love to hear your thoughts and your comments and your questions. Enjoy the show. Welcome, Tamara. I'm so happy to have you on the podcast.
Thank you, Miss Kim. I'm really happy and excited to be here.
Well, I know women are going to be really excited to listen to the information that's going to come out today. And I love that you're going to share everything that you do because as we're aging and we're having just insecurities and doubts about ourselves as we are moving through a process of trying to figure out what's the best way to deal with our skin, to deal with our bodies. And so I am going to ask you first, before we get into all that really good, juicy stuff, to tell us a little bit about your background and how did you end up getting to where you are, where you're doing some of these therapies, where you're doing some of this work, where you became a nutritionist. What was your story to get to this
Oh,
point?
gosh. Well, I was emotionally eating from about 17 to around 20 because of the transitions where I didn't have a big family support. So my friends were a big support for me. And then thinking about us all going and separating and going to different colleges. And where was my support group? Even their families was a big support for me because my mom was single, constantly working. And so I would be at their houses and getting that kind of family support I needed. Well, in those years, I put on 60, almost 70 pounds in the course of like 2 to 3 years predominantly. And I just woke up one day. I'm from Oregon. So we always take our bathrobes with us to the shower because it's freezing cold, right? So I forgot my bathrobe, had to walk down a hallway of mirrors, and I caught a glimpse and I said, done. I'm over it. I'm completely done with sabotaging myself. Now, I'm a true introvert, but I absolutely adore people. And so I was reverting, I was pulling off, I was disconnecting. And so I felt really lost, scared, super insecure, very doubtful about my future. And I thought, no, no, I've got longevity on both sides. I need to turn things around. And immediately that day, I like, okay, what are the top few things I can stop? And during those days, it was red meats, fats, fried foods,
Yes.
um, I think I cut out cheeses and and so that was it during there. So it was more like the fat-free nation kind of period, right?
Exactly.
But I was able to get my body down at a really what I considered very healthy weight. Then as things kind of came around more and I've finished my education, I started personalizing my approach to a eating pattern so that I could tell a person how they should eat versus collectively saying this is how people should eat, right? And then also teaching them that, gosh, life isn't about perfection. Life isn't about not allowing a certain treats, but then I got to teach people once I knew how to customize it for them, how to prioritize their eating and eat around the treats to rebalance themselves, and how often their body can get away with that based on their DNA and based on their lifestyle, right? And so when I actually started running DNA for diet, I took on my own DNA at the very beginning, and I was quickly released 18 more pounds, which I thought I was at my set point. I thought I was at my healthy weight, and 18 pounds rolled right off of me. And I thought, whoa, weight has never come off easy for me, right? But I just realized that I still was not eating the right formula for me. And once I put that formula into place, my body gave me grace. My body acclimated and told me, yes, please, thank you, we're on track. Well, then I was still doing all my athletics. So I was still doing all my triathlons, I was still doing all my marathons, and my body looked great in clothes. Now I took off those clothes and I had congested lymphatic, stuck lymphatic tissue. I had a lot of cellulite. I had a lot of color discoloration and circulatory issues. And then I had plantar fasciitis, so painful for 2 years. Finally saw someone using a fascia tool on top of their client's foot. And I'm like, no one's ever treated the top of my feet for anything. And I'd gone through some painful therapies, even prolotherapy multiple times, which is very painful. I got the tools for fascia, started working the top layers of my skin on my top of my feet, along with my whole back line, trying to get my whole back fascia line moving more freely because my ankles and my calves and my feet were pretty stuck. Then I started being able to go, hold it. My legs are looking fantastic. I stopped wearing shorts, sundresses, short little black dresses. I was now wearing dresses to like the tops of my knees or the bottoms of my knee. Now I will rock a short denim short, a little sundress, a little back dress. And I have to say, at 61 years of age, I'm really proud of my legs, which my wheels were something I was never proud of, right?
I love
And
that.
so and then through this, I was like, okay, I was feeling change, working fascia, feeling change, feeling change. And then all of a sudden I got this static change. And I was like, what am I doing? I need to incorporate this into my business. So I was already doing nutrition. I was already doing lymphatic care, and I was doing some other beauty treatments and pre and post surgical care when I was working for plastic surgeons. But I was working as an independent and bringing in my specialties. And then some hours, depending on what I was doing, I was on their payroll. And we just had a really good dynamics where I got to bring in health for pre and post surgical care when surgical care is a little bit more extreme, but I'm trying to put the common sense in it, right? We need to right diet. We need to pro inflammation out. We need to make sure you're not on alcohol or nicotine in your blood. How can we filter that out? How can we get the best outcome from your surgery? And so when I was actually placing this in a high performance level, it was outstanding the results we were getting, and actually taking people and working their fascia. Even when we were just doing laser work, we got such better outcomes. And it's funny, the doctors kept resisting what I was saying. And they're like, how do you get such great results? And I said, because I understand fascia, which is our connective tissue system. And then I understand skin, our top layers. And then I understand the fears that people go through and how they're judging themselves against others. So you take all of those components, and I am good about identifying their fascia, the health integrity of their skin, their expectations to their outcome, and then I can deliver a an expectation that is realistic for them based on all those things. So you know how we have all those clinical studies, right? And they're like, oh, they had all of this in 5 sessions, and they're like, 20 years younger. But I can look at a skin and a fascia type, and I can say, that's not going to be you, like me. I'm not going to be your traditional standard study because I don't have good collagen. I've got thin white girl skin. I used to have bad fascia, not anymore, but I am not going to be like all of that, all of those clinical studies. So I can manage people's expectations, which is everything. But also, it's really good to do things in a specific order to get the most out of your outcome that you're putting in. And that's how I could coach them. Hey, you should start with this, and this is why. Then you want to progress to that. Now, if this is your ultimate outcome, these would be the steps that I would lay out and explain why, so that people could make powerful decisions, right? And when I found that fascia can not only make you move well, but look well, I was sold. When I did my weight loss from food alone, I was like, holy smokes, I want every woman on the planet to have this, to know what this feels like, to know what it feels like to walk with confidence, to walk with control. When you've got your blood sugar levels so far out of balance, people think their mind is weak. They're not understanding their chemistry is weak because their body is out of balance. And so they keep beating up themselves because their brain is weak, not having discipline around food. When all we need to do is give them a big hug and have them balance their blood sugar levels. And then they've got so much more mental and physical strength to be able to make healthy decisions. And then when I got the fashion, I'm like, it can make me feel good and it can make me look beautiful. Hello, sign me up. And
Right. Who
those are
wouldn't
my,
want that?
oh my gosh, those are my two biggest things that I do really focus on in my career because they have such a monumental return. And when we're trying to age well, I think when we're a little younger, we are, I should say, I used to focus more on aesthetics. Now, I love beauty and I still focus on aesthetics, but every day I want to get out of that bed and I want to feel good. I want to have my body moving. I don't want to experience stuck pain and inflammation. And that is my biggest steering component. Beauty comes second. Now, of course, I'm 61, so that was very different when I was even 51, right? But as I'm getting older, and I'm like, I'm not compromising anything by eating my customized diet, my diet, right? Not what society is marketing to me, what my DNA is actually saying is healthy for me. And I get to work my fascia therapy and my fascia connective tissue so that I keep it moving I don't know how much people know about fascia. Am I talking too fast? Too much?
No, I think it's great, but
Okay.
let's take a step back and let's
Okay.
unpack this a little bit because you said so many great things and there's a couple things I want to go back to. And I love this and you are speaking our language. This is what our listeners we talk about in these podcasts all the time and I want to step back first to when you talked very openly and honestly about having the emotional eating and needing the support. I think that women forget that emotional eating is so much bigger than just the willpower and the discipline. And then you brought in not only the emotional part of it, but that physical part when we have those highs and lows from the issues that we're having with blood sugar and the fact that, we are more insulin resistant as we get older. So
Mhm.
there's things that you're helping women with. And I love that. But I also want to step back for just a second and look at can you share really quickly before we get into fascia, the DNA testing, just a little bit more about what that is and how that really helped you? Because I love how you work with women individually. They have a unique plan from you because you're
Mhm.
talking about their fashion, you're talking about their skin, but you're not just cookie cutter giving them a plan. So, can we go back to DNA first? How did that work?
Well, it's nice because you can do it two different ways anymore, like swabbing or blood. So, like for me, because I'm not in a facility that has a lab, I use the swabs. And the worst part about it is it takes 3 weeks to get the results. And so people have to sit patient. But what's brilliant, the lab gives me a 51-page report on the client. I turn that into somewhere between a 14 to 20-page comprehensive report. And I give them both to my client because I want my clients to be able to use the comprehensive report, making it easier for them to bring it into their life, integrate it into their life as fast as easy as possible. But more information will be coming out about DNA. And I want them to have the report from the lab so that when they get more information that we have got, at our local convenience stores and all of our magazines and everything else, which will be soon, I want them to go back to the report and see if they've got that kind of genotype. And so, what the reports actually show us, Cam, is like how a person's supposed to eat. What are those macronutrients? Then that tells me how sensitive they are to a protein, a carbohydrate, or a fat. So, based on how they're supposed to eat, I got to go, oh, you're sensitive to sugar molecules. That means you even have to watch tropical fruit. That means you even have to watch sweet potatoes, things that we consider very healthy for us. We want people to consume them, but they will have to slim down their portions when they're eating a higher carbohydrate, higher glycemic index food. Okay. Now, fats. We look at fats now, keto is huge. I If I say people don't know how to eat, I always say Mediterranean is the safest way to go. Keto maybe for 10 days, 2 weeks, trying to rebalance the blood sugar system, but it's probably not a great lifestyle for most people. And that's only me being able to just like you know, what's that called when you put everyone in one group? Anyhow, I'm only guesstimating for them. But I get to then teach them, okay, you should be having lean proteins. Oh no, you should be doing more chicken thighs versus chicken breasts. You get more salmon or you get more snapper, right? Salmon richer, or they get more purines from the dark meats. Then I get to teach them, okay, you're the type that should have a vegetable before you have your protein. Or no, you should have some of your protein before you even have a vegetable because a vegetable is a carbohydrate also. So it's all these little nuances that people don't even think about that I get to give them and gift them so that they can feel good throughout their whole entire day. Then it tells me also how much exercise that person needs. Their heart rate level should be at a certain level of burning, whether it's at 60%, 70%, 80% of their natural resting heart rate. What should that be? How many hours per week should be cardio, weight training? If so, should it be heavy weights, low reps, or lightweight, high reps? how much rest in between. And then I get to give them examples in case they're not doing anything for athletics now and want to incorporate new ways and want to think about something fun for them. And now, if someone's already got that in place, I get to like a little bit groom them to how they can curtail it so it's actually perfect for their own DNA without feeling like they have to aboard what they're already doing and loving, right? And then they got lifestyle factors. So it's so fascinating. They'll tell you how sensitive you are to circadian cycles. Now, if we are not in rhythm with circadian cycles, we are already accelerating aging. Now, if we have a sensitivity to that, we have to really micromanage that so that we get all of our cellular energy, all of the mitochondria energy, all of our cellular hydration. None of that can come unless we don't have the right relationship with the circadian cycles. Okay. Then it tells me, does Kim release as much endorphins and serotonins as the average person? If not, I give you little tools and tricks to help you along the way. And say you have a bitter flavoring gene and you're like, you don't like vegetables, you know, if you have a bitter tasting gene, a lot of people don't like vegetables like that. So what would you do? Well, you're going to go and you're going to cook those down, and I'm going to teach you ways how to put them in soup, saute them down, maybe put a little sesame oil, make them a little Asian style in order to mask the bitter flavor in them. And so each way or each thing that's going on with their diet, their exercise, or their lifestyle, I get to coach them in these little nuances that make it easy for them to integrate. And I always try to find out as much information as I can about a person. You know, they think my paperwork's a pain in the booty. I'm like, yeah, well, kind of is. But then I'm not throwing stuff at the wall. I'm trying to look at your life and I'm trying to get ways to easily integrate things for you.
That's fabulous. And
Yeah.
it's great that you make it so unique. And I do think it's interesting when clients feel like you're asking so many questions that don't seem to be related to diet and exercise. And it is so much more what's happening in their life that's stressful. How are they sleeping? Are they even going to bed at the right time?
Yeah.
And like you're saying, there is a right time for different people. I used to think that everyone had to be in this window, but we really do have different bodies and different types. And I love that you can get that test done, make it easier for them to read, but you give them the whole thing just in case. And then you can actually coach around. Those are facts that you can coach around. And I just love that idea. And I didn't realize how available that actually was. So that's fun. This is why I love this podcast, is because there are times when, you think you know so much and you're working with people all the time. And I find out something new and something
Hmm.
special that you're doing. And I think that's great.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that I want to know more about, one of the main reasons that I asked Tamara, this is for the listeners, I asked Tamara to come on, is I really have been just exploring some things even personally for myself. I, like you, was doing a lot of marathons. And over the years, I never had any injuries, but I did have something happen. I'm not sure why I went through this phase, but quite a long time ago, I decided to try CrossFit with a friend, and it didn't end well for me. And I ended up with something called um, patella tendon femoral pain syndrome, I believe is what I might have mixed some of the words up. So the tendons and ligaments around my knee were so tight, so sticky, and my kneecap wasn't moving. And here I am, a runner. I'm like trying to keep going. I'm trying to keep lifting weights, trying to do all the things. And I'm like a stick figure. Like I'm not bendy at all.
Yes.
So I am literally stuck. So I started watching some things and I got myself a fascia tool and I was watching some videos. And then when I met Tamara, I started watching her videos. And I want to learn more. So this is just the beginning. I'm telling everyone you can't just do it from that. But I have already found so much benefit, and something you taught me. And I know I'm going to ask you deeper questions so you can get really into this. But something I learned from you was even working around my hip, because that's really where most things are happening and beginning for me. So when we get done with the podcast, we're going to share with everyone how to find Tamara. You do need to watch these videos because one, you're not going to believe she's 61, gorgeous woman.
Thank
Number two, you are also going to learn a lot about how she's helping people. So let's step back. That's just my personal experience and I'm loving it and wanting to know more. Let's step back to what is fascia?
Okay, well, fascia, that's a extremely valid question. It is a buzzword now that so many people still have not heard of it. Kim, it was only logged into the medical journals since 2006. It
Oh,
is our
wow.
connective tissue. Every time a surgeon goes in and they're pulling up that skin, they have to cut through this white webby stuff in order to get to the area that they're treating. So they've been cutting through this webby stuff, having no idea what it was, or even the mechanics of it. So fascia is our connective tissue system. It is the almost like the skin underneath your skin. And the most important thing to understand about the fascia connective tissue system is it is continuous. So, could you imagine if your hair didn't have an end and it just looped back up into your scalp and looped back down, right? So, if you pulled on this, it's going to be pulling on this over here, right? That's how the fascia system is. So, when scientists were looking at like working the plantar of a gentleman's heel, and seeing the fascia move over the shoulders, in these films, it was phenomenal. And so, one of the things to really get about fascia, because of that continuous system, it has the ability to cause a lot of problems or relieve you from a lot of problems, cause you problems when it's unhealthy, and relieve you from a lot of issues when it's healthy. Okay. And so its purpose when it was first logged is they called it a suspension and a stability system. So suspending organs from organs, tissues from tissues, ligaments from ligaments, muscles from muscles, so that they slide and glide each time that we move, we do anything. It is the gliding, allowing for the gliding and the moving. The stability part is coming to rescue for our joints. When we're not using our biomechanics correctly, whether we're hunched over, hyperextending our knees, collapsing our arches, or tripping in heels, falling off our bike. So we've got some kind of misuse or overuse or injury. It is greatly affecting that fascia and making that fascia stick together and causing adhesions in it. Now, when those adhesions, they're mostly trying to secure the joints first. They're trying to stabilize our joints first, which is one of the most beautiful things. We want to thank it because we don't want to replace joints right and left. So it gives us this information when things are getting more bound, more thicker, discolored, not as good circulation, or even indentations like cellulite. Cellulite is only an adhesion in the fascia system. That's it. It has been proven
Mm.
to be changed, and that it is nothing more than a piece of scar tissue in your fascia system, right?
That's going to be some amazing news for women out there because people that I talk to, they only relate cellulite to fat.
Oh, yes. Okay, I'll
Yep.
touch on that in a moment.
Yes. Come back to
Okay.
that when you're ready.
Okay. So we have got the system that is stabilizing our joints and is suspending our stuff, goes in and out of every single organ. Okay. Every single organ weaves around every single muscle strand, bundles together with more fascia, bundles together with more fascia, and gives us our shape. Now, when the medical journals logged it the second time, they logged it as a communication system. So it houses our nerves. It allows for the drugs to get to this place in need. And it allows for all the communication from the neurons, right? Up and down, right? So from our brain to our body for everything and anything, which also means it houses emotions. So when we get traumas from emotions, say our neighbor yelled at us for, bumping their car, or say our significant other was mean and cruel to us, right? And we hold these things, we hold it in the fascia system. And so those traumas could be biomechanics incorrectly used, a physical trauma or emotional trauma that has actually caused cellulite or plantar issues or frozen shoulder or love handles or cankles. It's crazy. But all of that is changeable. The third thing that was logged in the medical journals on was so I did physical, and then communication, and then the emotional system. So all three of those now is what is logged under. So if we think about the impact of that, you might have cellulite or problems like stuck shoulders because when you came through the birthing canal, it was traumatic and they were pulling and tugging on you so much. And here we grow up thinking, I'm embarrassed of the cellulite, not even knowing you can change it. But it had nothing to do with you. It had to do with the trauma that you actually had to encompass coming through the mom's birthing canal, right? So there's just so many things that people don't have to live with bulky areas and frozen areas, right? Like waistlines. You think about men. Men always wear their pants and their belts all in the same area. They start getting these impressions in their fascia. The fascia ends up being obedient and giving them those lines. Now, with my women, I'm always telling them, change where your clothes are fitting you at, and don't wear tight leggings every single day. You got to let your fascia move without the compression, right? And people like, I'm from Southern California. I'm over here in La Jolla, California. People live in leisure wear, live in leggings. I'm like, oh no, 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 that's binding your fascia. Fascia's obedient. You don't want to do that. So even when you take a pair of sweatpants that got the elastic at the bottom and it's squeezing against you, and then you lift, you take them off, and you see all those indentations, right? That is fascia, and your fascia was obedient by making those indentations where you told it to from your clothes. So could you imagine what we're doing with our bodies that we have no idea? And every time someone comes in my practice, I start with a postural assessment. Every time I do a virtual with someone, I start with a postural assessment. I say, these are the 4 pictures you need to send to me. And I'm always like, oh, no, 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 I can't see your toes. Oh, I can't see the top of your head. Retake them. And I'm very particular because how the feet are lining up, how the toes are laying down, or how the ankles are turning affects everything from there on up. And then I've got to see what else I need to help the body unwind and help them stand right so that biomechanically they aren't telling their body to bind. It's like if you're not using your biomechanics right, Kim, it's like an earthquake is going on inside their body. And so it creates an adhesion to stabilize it. So I
Wow.
want to teach them their part in it. And then what I can coach them on either virtually, how to use some fascia tools to relieve their body of being bound in those areas and those indentations and those kinkles or those, love handles or bellies or cellulite or whatever it is, or the pain from the dowager's hump, or, pain from their wrist. There's just it's endless, endless. But I always start with the postural, so I say, this is your work. This is what I can coach you on. And I can tell you understand, but you got to go and you got to do it. And you got to work at it. And we're so used to standing without thinking, sitting without thinking, breathing without thinking. But what have we learned? We've got a culture now that doesn't even breathe very well. Certainly we're not standing very well, right? And I get to help them change their shoes and make smart choices in shoes for the most part, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that is amazing. So some things that are new to me that I think are new to the listeners, which I appreciate, is how all encompassing the fascia system is and how important it is. But the point that you made about not just the physical traumas, because that's, of course, what I related to when I was telling you about the knees and some of the things I've worked on. And I totally get when you talked about having plantar fasciitis. I have been very blessed, but I've had friends, and what do? They just stick them in a boot and tell them
Mm-hmm.
not to move it, which is the opposite of what we want to be doing.
Opposite.
And the emotional trauma, that is amazing to remember that our body holds traumas, even the
Mm.
emotional traumas in our, because we're starting to learn so much more about that connection. And I think that's amazing. And I don't want to forget, I want to come back to cellulite because women, one of the biggest insecurities that we hear women talking about, we know that it's true because when you go online, if you type that in, there are so many people searching for that. And if you can explain a little bit more, like you did, about what cellulite really is and how you're working with that. But I also would love for you to kind of go into that's just one little piece. Are you having people and women doing this every single day? Are they creating a daily practice? Is this something they can do a couple times a week, 7 days a week? What's going on, and how are you helping them develop a routine? And where do they go? Do they go to specific spots? Are they doing head to toe? I'd love to know more.
Okay. Well, cellulite, think about it. Our skin's got layers, right? And so if you've got an adhesion underneath there, then you start with your top layers and get them healthy and to work your way down to deeper layers of fascia. And so you've got their superficial layers and your deep layers. And so there's different tools that you can, and combination of tools that you can use to do that on. And so that's all cellulite is. It is a scar tissue that's underneath the skin that may or may not be pulling on the top layers. Now, if you look down and you can see it, it's pulling on the top layers. But if you press on your skin, you might see it then. But when you let your hand off, you might not see it then, right? So there's all
Yes.
different types. And what's interesting is like they're both unhealthy, whether you can see the cellulite or not see the cellulite until you push on your skin, it's still unhealthy. And when you are, all you're trying to do is like, if your fascia is like hair strands and this is a knot, you're going to take, and it's going to be better to use a tool with some kind of combing mechanism to comb the knots out versus like thinking about taking a foam roller and just pushing against it. That helps somewhat because it brings hydration to the area, which then our bodies are brilliant and they're like, oh, hydration right here. Oh, I'm supposed to slide. That's right. That's what I'm supposed to do here. So those kind of other modalities can help, right? But maybe not solve. And cellulite has been proven to be solved now, to lay it flat so that it is gliding and those adhesions are gone, so then the aesthetic dents are not there when you push or when you're just looking. Okay. So that is really, really phenomenal because people have thought we've had to live with that for years. And I've had cellulite since I was a cheerleader at Pop Warner football, which was what I was 12. And I would say I am 90% cellulite free at age 61. And
That's
the only reason
amazing.
I'm not 100% is because I'm scared to lose my butt anymore. My butt has gotten super small. And I'm like, oh, if I
Gotta
treat that
save the
thing too
butt.
much, it might get smaller. And I just haven't been willing to get into the gym as much. I do yoga, hot yoga, uh, anywhere from 7 to 10 classes a week doing 90-minute hot yoga, but getting in that gym, like haven't done it. Okay. Now, the next component you asked about was how often, how frequent, how much on the body, how hard, all those little nuances. And that's where the gem comes in. That's where I come in because your fascia type and the rest of the world's fascia type might be completely different. Your skin integrity compared to the rest of the world might be completely different, right? So you have to take those into account. The collagen in my skin is very weak. And so I have to do more top layer work and more circulatory work and fascia blast my whole body a couple times a week so that I get my whole body to get on board to help itself. Okay. Versus someone that's got a little bit more better skin integrity, they can do more deeper work all week long. Someone that's got completely beyond bound fascia, they need it more frequent because their body's new memory is like a rock. It is like a rock. And so we need them to have a new memory, get it back to its old memory. And then if you've got someone with loose connective tissue where their fibers are very loose, they've got hypermobility. You can't have them treat their fascia very often. You need to treat it intensely and let it completely heal. So maybe they're doing it every 7 to 10 days. And that's what I want people to really understand is like if you are an aging woman, you cannot free flow this without thinking it through. When I say aging, hormonal changes. So if you're perimenopausal at 40, that means you. If you're perimenopausal at 50, that means you, right? And then 50 and above, all of us, right? But the idea is we can not injure ourselves. We can break down the integrity of our collagen because when we're using a tool on ourselves, our tools can't identify healthy fascia from non-healthy. So it's not just going to go on and go, oh, I'm just going to get the unhealthy fascia. No, we're treating the whole area. And so we've got good and we've got bad. And in that, all of it's fascia is only collagen. It's made up of collagen and water. And so if we're treating it too much for the integrity of our collagen, then we're actually breaking down our healthy collagen. So that's why when people are like, "Oh gosh, I'm just, I don't know. I'm just going to try this." I'm like, "Okay, how old are you? Don't try. Come see me," right? Because and I have been doing virtuals now about 2.5 years. So I did a couple virtuals during COVID. And then I didn't think about it past then until one of my clients came back and said, "Hey, I need now the face program. I need you to teach me how to do face fascia." And I'm like, okay. So I have been doing it. Then I think I get at least 6 virtual sessions a week. And this is because people are not trained in what I do. We've got probably about somewhere around 600 people in the whole United States that are trained on what I do, certified in what I do.
That's
And
not
then we
very
have probably
many.
800 in the whole world. So I have clients in Australia, Costa Rica, Canada, um, South Africa, New York, Vegas, Arizona. It's great. So there's no limitations. Now I can say, this is your fascia type. This is your skin integrity type. This is how you do it, and this is why. So that they don't have to worry about wasting time, wasting energy, and getting results they don't want, right? Sabotaging their results. So it's so fun. It's once again, it's that customization. And I love that. And what I've been able to do is like when I used to do just the nutrition component, I was had a Pure Bar. Do you know what that is?
Yes, we have
So
Pure Barre here in Florida too, and I've seen it in some other places.
yeah, so one of the owners of Pure Bar hired me to help her with her nutrition. She goes, "Oh, you've got to bring this to all my ladies." And I'm like, shy, right? I'm like,
Mhm.
introvert. I'm like,
Oh, that's
what? She goes,
great.
"Oh, yeah." So my first group session I did was for 5 weeks, meeting once a week for 38 women. And I got to customize their diets and me showing them how their diet was different from the sister sitting next to them. I get to show them for an example of like the color white next to the color black, right? You understand white more when you see black. And then I got to go do a dove gray and a charcoal gray. And so now all of those distinctions got even more clear because they can see the contrast. And that's what I got to teach them. Like, so if they're working with their kids and I've got them on a specific diet, they can kind of pay attention. Oh, do their kids feel satisfied from that kind of breakfast? Not satisfied from that kind of breakfast? Are they having afternoon cravings? Did we not feed them enough protein or fat for lunch? So all those little nuances. And it became so much fun that now I did Pure Bars, Studio Bars, Extend Bars, all the way to Brentwood, all the way to San Diego in 5 week series. And that is now what I am doing with Fascia. So if I am doing a online course or doing a program here at a local gym, I am actually teaching them about their fascia and the other fascia types so that they can distinguish theirs more and understand them more. There's more.
Wow, that is amazing. And I love, again, you keep bringing up the individualized plan because we are different and the nuances need to be paid attention to. And in the entire discussion, one of the things that I think is so fascinating, and I've not actually said these words, but we're looking for natural ways to age well, as opposed to and there's nothing wrong, people can do whatever they want. I have love and compassion for all women to do what makes them happy, but if you're looking for a really natural way that is also really healthy for your body, you are offering these ways for women to, make their body feel better and to individualize their plan, to help themselves with aging.
Yes.
So I appreciate that. And Tamara, what I'd love for you to do, and you can mention things you've already said or new things, could you give our listeners just 3 tips to get started on what are the things that they could start doing now? Because, of course, we want them to reach out to you, but can they start anything simple right now to start that beautiful, natural aging process in a graceful and wonderful way?
I would say some of the key components that are essential for aging well on a cellular level is cellular hydration, natural sunlight in the morning or the golden hour, regulating your circadian cycles and your oh gosh, what's it called that we get from our computers and our phones and stuff?
The blue light?
Blue light, thank you.
Yes.
Right, regulating the blue light, right? That's where I use my glasses a lot for that, and not doing that late in the day so that your circadian cycle can adjust. So that's nothing of what I do, right? That is stuff that any of our listeners right now can be doing from their home. And those are absolutely essential. Now, as far as what I think, as far as where I'm specializing in, is when you're consuming food, when you're trying to identify what diet is right for you, when you haven't reached out to a professional like myself or you, then eat in small quantities and don't make your food complex so that you can get stronger body signals. Okay. And then I would say refined foods are a no for everyone as far as a healthy practice. Now, when you go out a few times a week, all of that stuff, absolutely, right? And then as far as your body and your body's irrigation cleansing system, it needs that proper hydration and you need to get your lymphatic fluids moving. An easy way to do that is sticking your legs or your arms up in the air and flapping them like this in bed before you've even gotten out of bed. Or you
Yeah.
can get up and get on a little trampoline, mini trampoline, and do 5 minutes of natural little bouncing. So our lymphatic system resides in our superficial fascia. So if our lymph, which is our cleaner of our body, if it's stagnant and thick, it's pressing down on our superficial fascia. If our superficial fascia has an adhesion in it, it's pushing down in our lymph system. So those need to be flowing and moving together. Another way to do that is hot, cold, warm shower, ending with a cold burst at the end to shock the system and get the fluids moving. Those are very easy at home ways people could do. And I think another way to really focus on keeping us as young as possible is bringing in quality collagen supplementation. Whether it is a topical that's helping remove inflammation and restore, which would be like a castor oil pack, or we can use simple things like um, powders or bone broths or liquids that are higher quality that don't have chemicals in them so our body can identify and use them properly. And I would say the older you get, the more important supplementation for collagen is important.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad you mentioned that. And thank you. Those tips are gold. They're amazing. And I'm so thankful too that you brought in the lymphatic system because that is also really important. That could be an entire podcast in itself. And I really appreciate it. Tamara, I'm so happy to have you here today. You've given us so much beautiful and wonderful information. Can you please tell everyone where they can find you?
Yes. Well, I'd love it if you found me on my website, which is my name, tamararenee.com. So TAMARARENEE.com. And then you could also follow me on Instagram, which my handle is Fit Fine Fascia. So
That's
I try to keep it fun. And what I really am committed to do is to give out a lot of free information
you
to
do
help
that.
inspire and people get them on their right course. Because my one of my favorite hashtags, Kim, is better together, right? We are better together. We cannot go on this planet alone. We will die, right?
Yes,
Our
we need each
brilliance
other.
our brilliance and our love is supposed to be an exchange and a dance between all of us. And I am committed to do my part.
I love that. And all of the links that Tamara just talked about, we're going to put those in the show notes and you'll be able to just click on them to go and visit. And I really do hope you visit her Instagram site. I watch it daily. I learn something every time I go out there. And I really appreciate you, Tamara. And I appreciate especially your wanting us all to be connected and be better together. So thank you for being here today.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, my dear. My pleasure. I appreciate you.
And for all the listeners, make sure you nourish your entire life and give yourself grace today.
Yes. Amen.
That's it. Thank you so much for tuning into the Emotional Eats podcast, the podcast that's here to help you feel amazing, strong, energetic, and healthy holistically in your mind and your body. But my guest and I also want to help you build great habits to help you with long-term mental and physical health so that you can lean into aging in a very positive and strong way. Check out my website, kimhines.com, and please come see me on Instagram at kimhineshealth. That's where I leave tips for healthy life, healthy body, healthy relationship with food. And I also am there to encourage you, and I love to hear from you. So tag me and let me know what you like about the show and what you want to hear more about. Check out the show notes for all the details. Make sure to rate and review the podcast. And until our next time together, nourish your entire life and give yourself grace today.